Hey, Rush Nation. Welcome to the 5 Yard IDP pod with me, Nath Davis. Today we will be reviewing week 13 and getting you ready for week 14. We're getting very close to the fantasy playoff week, so hopefully we can help you with your IDP starters. Mr. Veal, how the devil are you?
I am, fortunately, I'm a lot better. I tested positive, unfortunately, for COVID over the weekend, which kind of knocked me for 6. I was all right initially, but I have been really quite rough the last couple of days. So I am going to apologise in advance to the listeners. I've done the best I can with the notes, as I've discussed with Nath. There's a couple of games where the notes are a little brief because, frankly, sort of, Sunday and Monday, I wasn't really feeling up to doing much other than sleeping. So I've done my best. We're here, and we have got a pod put together for you guys. So,
Fair play, mate. Fair play.
I have covered all the games, but a couple of them are a little briefer than I would like. But yeah, the COVID struck, unfortunately. But I am on the mend. So yeah, all good.
Happy days. Right. Cool. Okie doke. Well, let me get going with the obvious. So, as you all know, Manscaped are our sponsors and they are the market leader in men's below the waist grooming. They've just released the Lawnmower 4.0, which is a fantastic bit of kit. One of the best things about it is the skin safe technology, so you get no nicks on your bits and you can receive 20% off with the code 5yard at manscaped.com. It really is a game changer in that area and you are missing out if you do not have one. As I said, you can get 20% off with the code 5yard at manscaped.com. There's also free worldwide shipping, so sort yourself out and get involved. Right, let's kick it off. I am kicking it off with a Thursday night game, which is the Steelers at Vikings. I'm going to start with the Steelers just to give myself a little bit of more time to. Anyway, right, yeah, Steelers, right. So now that is better from the Steelers. That is much better. As a lover of the defensive side of the game, I can't help but want the Steelers to do well, and that was definitely more like it. I like to see them be putting that pressure on opposing offenses, and it was a great defensive performance by the Steelers as a whole, really, in week 13, led by obviously the main man TJ Watt. The pressure exerted on Lamar Jackson was the key to getting the result. 6 times TJ Watt got to him, but it wasn't just TJ Watt. Chris Wormley got to him 3 times, and Big Cam Hayward got to him once. So, yeah, I know I'm meant to be talking, but just quickly, before I carry on with the Steelers, I mean, whoever is playing Lamar Jackson at this moment in time, you need to be targeting their pass rush because he is holding on to the ball way too long and he's quite happy to take the sacks, which for us boys and girls means points. So, yeah, that's what I would suggest. But yeah, back to the Steelers, week 13, Mika Fitzpatrick. 21.5 points, and Joe Schobert with 13 points. They're also worth a mention. Apart from that, not a great deal that I would really target on the Steelers side of things. Over to the Vikings. I mentioned it. We can lose to anybody and beat anybody. It's like Russian roulette. We've got no game management. It's difficult. I mean, it's fun to watch for the neutral, but bloody hell, it's hard work being a Vikings fan, especially playing those teams that you really should be beating. And yeah, it was difficult. The last play in the loss is just incredible. I mean, that anybody who's looking wants to become a DB. I mean, watch that about how not to defend. It was incredible. Why they were so deep is beyond me, and it was just an easy throw by Goff into St. Brown, the rookie, for the win. They need Kendricks back, and they will get him back this week. It can just on the defensive management front. It just seemed that they were just lacking a little bit of guidance at the end there. And yeah. So hopefully he will be back this week. I can't see why not. Apart from the linebackers, I wouldn't be targeting any of the Vikings players at this moment in time, mainly because of this inconsistency with the performance, especially from the defensive side of things. I wouldn't bank on sacks, interceptions. I mean, I know you can anyway, but I mean the probability is just not there at this moment in time. Linebackers is where it's at points wise. Um, Kendricks is the main man. I got a mention to Blake Lynch. He had himself a day with 2 sacks, but he's somebody to keep an eye on. But with Kendricks back, he's going to probably take a hit. We've lost Brendan, unfortunately. He's having lots of problems with his internet connection. So I'm just going to carry on at this moment in time, and hopefully he will rejoin us. So Schobert, looking at stats and matchups quickly, Schobert from the Steelers, he's heading linebacker. He's the head linebacker and tackler at 84 tackles at this moment in time. Minka Fitzpatrick at safety, he has 82 tackles. TJ Watt, his 16 sacks, 16 tackles for a loss. Cam Hayward's stats are good, 61 tackles, which is decent from his position, and 6.5 sacks. Just looking at that compared to the Vikings, Eric Kendricks, 109 tackles. I mean, that's considerably more than anybody from the Steelers. Harrison Smith's got 78 tackles at safety, and Xavier Woods at 74 tackles. So I mean, I would go Kendrick, Schobert, and I like Cam Hayward in this, but majority you're not going to be picked up. As for the result, God knows on this one. The Vikings possibly, but it's a spin of the wheel again. It depends on what Vikings turn up and what they decide to do on the day. Right, with Brendan not available, I'm going to crack on and try and get something out to you guys. So I'm now going to review the Raiders and the Chiefs. Denzel Perriman's continued to tackle his ass off, but unfortunately he picked up an ankle injury in the loss to Washington, so it may open an opportunity to KJ Wright if Perriman misses time. The Raiders are a funny old team, but their lack of a passing game is just distracted by Brendan's coming back in now. He's disappeared, but we've got his curtains, which is, I mean, it's something. Hang on. We've got him and his curtains. But yeah, I'm just going to carry on. Bren, I'm still on. I'm still talking away.
Good.
You seem to be
Okay.
back in the mix.
Oh, sorry, guys. Give me 2 seconds to sort the lighting out, but you carry on, mate. I'll be right with you. We've had some technical issues at this end.
No worries, mate. No worries. So along with KJ Wright, what a great name this fella's got. Divine Diablo. He's a 3rd-round rookie. He looked decent on Sunday. Now, I've just had a little look on Sleeper at him. He's listed as a DB as well. So this could be quite interesting as an ad. If you can play him in one of those DB slots and he racks up the tackle numbers, that could secure you a decent floor in that position for this week. Yeah, it looks like Perriman's not going to make it. He might do, and Corey Littlejohn. If they don't make it, Divine Diablo and KJ Wright could be the guys that they go to. I believe they've signed somebody today. I can't remember who that is. I only saw it flash up on my phone earlier on, but I think they've signed a linebacker today to add to the roster. So you're going to have to add that into the mix. However, there could be some points to be had here. I'm going to go over some other injured players when I cover the Bengals. Mr. Logan Wilson's also out, so we're looking at who his cover is, just to get those points, and you want to be snapping them up off the waiver wires. DB, let's go over there for the Raiders. Rookie Nate Hobbs at DB. He's a cheeky little pickup. 9 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss in week 13, 1 pass defended, and an interception. He meant he top scored for the Raiders, and he should be busy this week against Mahomes. So let's go. Yeah, so they're the ones I look at. The Raiders have covered them off. Over to the Chiefs. Nick Bolton is pretty much a drop for now. His time as lead linebacker is it looks like it's over for me. It might not be. You might want to hold on to him, especially in Dynasty. You should be looking a hold at this moment in time. But Willie Gay, he took over, outsnapped him in a big way last week, and now it's for me. It's all go Willie Gay, and get it. Potentially put him in if you can. I expect he's around on waiver wires. Daniel Sorensen also had a good week. He's not somebody I like, but he did have a good week in week 13. But that was due to that defensive touchdown that he had. So yeah, probably don't be fooled from there. I would go probably Thornhill and Snead over him. Still, Snead's the one because of the tackle count. They'd be better picks for me as they have better tackle numbers. As for the actual game itself, I'm all in on the Chiefs on this one, and I don't see this as a high-scoring game IDP-wise, so it might be one you might want to swerve apart from those tackle numbers at linebacker if you've got plug gaps. Yeah, and there's, like I said, the waiver wire pickups are there in this matchup, so have a look at those starting linebackers because Nick Bolton is really not the main man anymore, and Denzel Perryman is going to be missing. It sounds like so. Yeah, it's people to have. Yeah, so Bren, I have covered off 2 games: the Vikings, the Vikings and Steelers on Thursday night, and I've just gone and done the Chiefs and Raiders. So
caught the tail end of that.
We're all at a bloody sync, but who cares? Let's go for it. Who are you going for?
Sorry. Right. Let's try and get back on track.
Seahawks.
Yep. So I'll do the Seahawks Texans. Start with Seattle. I don't like the Seahawks at the moment. I think they're quite a selfish team. They're pretty much out of the playoff hunt completely, and then they decide to go and spoil sort of the Niners wildcard hunt. But sums up Seattle's season really. Sums up the Niners a bit to be candid. But so top IDP performers for week 13 in the linebacker core. Bobby Wagner, 21 points, including a pick. No great surprise there. Jordan Brooks, another good week, 17.5 points. And at safety, Quandre Diggs, 14.5, including another pick. So this is one I've sort of kept reasonably brief because I don't think there are any major surprises on Seattle. Texans, they were battered by the Colts on Sunday, 31-0 shutout, and they're just waiting for the season to be over, really. But on the plus side, I did call it last week. He was one of 2 I said, go out and get, and Camu Grugier-Hill, I said he'd be a good pickup, and he was this week with 42 points, 19 tackles, including 3 for a loss. Putting him on 88 for the season. He picked up he had a pick for good measure as well. Probably helped a bit by the other linebacker I'd sort of tipped the other week, Zach Cunningham. He was left out for disciplinary reasons, apparently, although the details of it were a little bit sketchy over the weekend.
But it's all over for him now.
Yeah, is that official now? Is he
I
gone?
think it's sounding
they
like
said why? Because I read the.
I believe he was late for a COVID test or something like that. But there's been stuff going on with Cunningham all year. I mean, he virtually top scored last year, and it's been Kirksey, Grugier-Hill. He was just dominant at the moment.
Yeah.
Kirksey was on IR, so they seem to have to play Cunningham when they didn't want to.
Yeah,
now Kirksey's back. See you later.
Kirksey's back, and he's come back with a fairly solid 16.5 points at the weekend. So, in terms of the matchup this week, what are we looking at? I think as far as Seattle go, I think it's as I touched on. That's why I've not highlighted any sort of real pickups out of left field. I'd be looking to play safe. Wagner, Brooks, Diggs, Jamal Adams. Although just keep an eye on Adams. He did pick up a shoulder injury on Sunday, although he did come back into the game, so his chances are he'll be okay. The problem is the Texans. I mean, they went and benched Tyrod Taylor when they were 21 points down. They gave Davis Mills a bit of a run out, the rookie again. So it's a little hard to plan from an IDP perspective when you've got a team that, don't really seem to know what they're doing. They're possibly going to tinker a bit, really, as I've said in the intro. As the season's just winding down for them. The Texans, again, stick with the LBs, Kirksey and Grugier Hill. I mean, I had a look. He's still out there on waivers.
Got to be picked up.
I mean, and again, I wouldn't be put off by the return of Kirksey either. Because they do like to play with two linebackers, and I looked at the snap count, 62 apiece, so they're getting bang on sort of equal playing time. In terms of the matchup, one of the in the DL, have a look at Jonathan Greenard. He's a Texan sack leader. He's picked up 8 this season, and that's something you've highlighted before.
Yeah.
Old Russ does he will take a sack. So if you're looking for something in the DL, Greenard could be all right in this matchup. I'll let him lie down, Russ. Let Russ nap. But the game summary: Seattle to win. Texans are just awful. Along with the Jags, 2 worst teams in the league, and the Seahawks are mathematically still in the wild card hunt. But
I think I've heard Jamal Adams he's on IR as well now, so his season's done. I mean, you could look at who's going to step in. There's a few names that are doing the rounds at the moment, but I wouldn't even worry at this moment in time. I would just the interesting thing with Zach Cunningham is really, it's one of those things. He's going to be placed on waivers, or it already has been placed on waivers. I'm reading. So he's probably a hold at this moment in time because it's to see where he's going to go. I like that. I quite like it when you get these kind of things, because that's it. He's off somewhere else, and you get a good place for him. He's a decent linebacker. So
he is. That's why I highlighted him last week.
Maybe if you find him on a waiver wire, which I doubt, well, you might do because people might throw him away. I would be tempted to, if you've got room, pick him up, stash him, and then see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it. After 42 points and whatever, he racked up 20 odd points of the week before. If I can still find Grugier Hill out there, and I have done on at least one of our leagues. So and that's a good bit of advice with regards to Cunningham. right? Do you want me to play catch up and do one of the earlier ones?
Saints and Jets. Do that on me.
Okay, so Saints come into this week off the back of the Thursday night loss to the Cowboys, and despite the team, as they're a bit banged up at the moment, but the defense did put in, it was a decent performance. Sadly, they weren't helped by Taysom Hill throwing 4 picks, despite some brave efforts on the ground from Hill. But as I say, the defense did well. I mean, they only allowed I think two third down conversions for the Cowboys, and they shut them out on the 1 4th down drive they went for. So, solid performance. Top performers came from the secondary last week. Marshall Lattimore top scored 25.5 points, including a pick. PJ Williams, 22 points, including a sack. And then at linebacker, Quan Alexander had an okay day with 12.5 points. So, looking at the Jets, they come into this off a 33-18 loss to the Eagles. Bit of a first half tennis match. Both teams seem to score at will. Maybe says a bit more about the defense on both sides for both teams, really, than it did about the offense. Top performers, someone we've mentioned before, CJ Mosley at linebacker, 18.5 points, 13 tackles, taking in over the 100 mark for the season. So he's been consistent on that front. Linebacker Quincy Williams, 16.5 points, 14 tackles. I think he's sort of second behind Mosley in their tackle count. And Elijah Riley had his best game of the season, 16 points, including a sack. However, I wouldn't be rushing out to pick him up just yet. Although with Marcus May out for the season, the 23-year-old former Eagle, he might be a shrewd pickup by the Jets, to be honest. He might, but he's literally just coming off the Eagles practice squad. So in terms of the matchup, looking at the Jets, linebackers for me purely on their tackle numbers. I've already highlighted, Quincy Williams is available on the waivers. I know Taysom Hill threw those 4 picks, and that's as many as this Jets D has managed between them all season. So, in terms of sort of DBs and stuff like that, I don't think you want to be sort of sniffing around sort of there. And with Kamara back as well, and Hill. Taysom Hill's not going to be throwing anything he doesn't have to on Sunday, really. They will keep it on the ground. I think that's a given, especially against one of the worst run defenses in the league. So value for the Jets at linebacker. No great shocks there. I like the Saints, defense in this matchup. They are still a top run defense. They should also have their sack leader, Marcus Davenport, back for this game at DL. So they'll be looking to come in and put some additional pressure on Wilson. Talking about Zach Wilson briefly, he was better on Sunday against the Eagles, but I think he will go on.
3 touchdowns. Sorry.
Well, he had to. I mean, the kid has got talent. I mean, he is going to have. It's a bad team, So they've got to be patient with the kid. But he is going to be forced to throw it on Sunday. Like I said, they ain't going to be able to run it really against this Saints D, even with the injuries they've got. And as I said, with their sack leader coming back, he's going to be thrown under pressure. So I'd have a serious look at picking up the likes of Latimore or Williams, the couple of players in their DB that I've highlighted this week. I've had a shop around. They're both out there on waivers. Given the option, Latimore would be the pick of the two because he's got better tackle numbers by far. Summing the game up quickly, Saints win, especially they've got Kamara back. I think they will keep it on the ground and just sort of try and pound it a bit. The Jets looked a bit better on Sunday, but as I've said, despite the injury, they've got Kamara running and still in essence what is a decent defense there. So can't see the Jets winning.
Okay. Well, all right then, mate. I'm gonna go. I've got like a couple of games which I skipped. I skipped the Jags and Titans. Got anything to say about either of them at this moment in time? Probably not.
No, not really.
Titans were on a bye week last week anyway. I don't necessarily see that as a big IDP game. Not really. So I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to talk about one that I do really like the look of, and this one for me is possibly the IDP game of the weekend potentially points wise, and it is the Giants at the Chargers. Now, the loss to the Dolphins put a nail into the Giants' coffin for me. This season is kind of done. That's it. That's pretty much it. And Daniel Jones is not looking like he's going to be fit again this week. Mike Glennon, I'm hearing that he is on the concussion protocol and not looking likely to start. So the rumor has it that Jake Fromm, the guy the Bills picked up last season as a rookie, he could be the starting QB. Now, obviously, I'm gonna review the Giants first, but I will be talking about that massively when I talk about the Chargers pass rush. For the Giants pass rush, Quincy Roche, he's getting to the QB and is slowly putting some half decent numbers together. Rookie Azeez Ojulari is also looking promising. Ty Crowder is the tackle leader, and Logan Ryan leads it in stats in the secondary. But a player I fancy in this one is Xavier McKinney to be a decent shot in this week. He's got 5 interceptions on the year, and I like this matchup because I'm hearing it. So Keenan Allen is on the COVID list. Now, that's a real interesting one for me. You got what they're saying is a banged up Austin Eckler. I think they said bruised and battered from the weekend, but nothing like no actual proper injury. What that means in this passing game, if they do not have Keenan Allen there, is a whole different game script that's going to be coming the Chargers' way to what we usually see, because Keenan's such a big part of that offense, and obviously, him not being there, it's going to be quite interesting how they play that game out. So yeah, for me, I would look at that secondary, and I like Xavier Mckinney is the guy to pick up. Obviously, Logan Ryan is there if you've got him, but Xavier McKinney is the one that you might be able to grab. So yeah, let's go back to that. Let's talk about the Chargers, and let's say that Jake Fromm gets the nod. Now I want to talk about Uchenna Nwusu. He could be in for a day. This lad, in each of the past 4 weeks, he's got to the QB every week. Now, he is obviously opposite the other side to Joey Bosa. Now, Joey Bosa, obviously, he's in play. If he clears concussion protocol, it sounds like he's going to. So he's a must start in this one. If Jake, obviously Jake from Glennon's playing, really whoever, Daniel Jones. I mean, to be fair, the matchup's particularly quite good. And I still expect a heavy run game because of this. So Saquon should be busy. Or Booker, actually, he had a fair old amount of snaps last weekend. So expect that heavy run game through the middle. So Drew Tranquil should be in for some decent points. Kazir White, again, he's still scoring quite well. So I like these Chargers players to potentially score quite well this week. And that is that for them. Yeah. What do you reckon of that, Bren?
Yeah, I mean the Giants' defense has been better in recent weeks. It was not a classic. Us against the Giants on Sunday. We had a better defense in the end, and we sort of we got away from them to had another sort of consistent performance. But I mean the Giants on offense are all sorts of banged up at the moment. Normally I wouldn't be as sort of in on the Chargers defense because they've not been fantastic this season. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is, a prime opportunity for them to sort of rack up some points. And, and Herbert seems to be, coming back into a bit of form. So, you got to feel sorry for the Giants. It's but again, another team season sort of like you say, it's done, it's wound up.
It's done.
Then they're not going to be risking anything, any niggles or tweaks. So you've got to go with the Chargers win. And the Chargers defensive players you've highlighted really. Especially the third string quarterback potentially.
It's always a funny division. It goes on and on and on with who's going to get the final spots and stuff like that. But it's just the fact that they're so far behind and have been all season, no real identity to what their game plan is, and it is a shame for the Giants. I think they got a long way to go at the moment to finding not only their identity, because it just hasn't worked with Daniel Jones. Saquon can't really be trusted because of his fitness side of things, and the wide receivers, if you look at it from when Odell Beckham Jr. left, it still just hasn't worked. None of it.
No,
really.
I mean, my brother's a Giants fan, and he asked me about it coming into the season, and I was a little more, I was reasonably enthusiastic. I said, yeah, well, you watch Jones sometimes, and he might come good this season, and then, they've got the Golladay coming in, who's been niggled with injuries, and the rookie Tony, who's looked good in flashes, who I thought could be a bit of a steal for them in the draft earlier in the year. But as you say, injuries and I think, do you see him in the market for a QB going into next season, or
tough one, isn't it? Like you said, I think the problem is when you look at who they're going to pick up, and they're going to have to start again with the problems that they've got. Defensively, they're all right as a unit.
Yeah.
They're actually really good. And obviously, Blake Martinez missing. Blake Martinez back next season, it makes a big difference to that defense, and got a good secondary. They're not bad up front. It's just the offense though doesn't have any section of it that looks like it's really reliable on to be able to keep swapping the QB. So I think that's why they're going to say that Daniel Jones is probably the one part of the jigsaw that you probably could keep. I know Saquon, they will keep going with Saquon, but
Yeah.
Just the injury side of things is a worry, and the fact that they haven't got a consistent backup really as well. They haven't really. It's not like
No.
it's not like a 1-2 punch, is it? It's Saquon or some other guy who's got to fill in for him and try and do the same, and it just doesn't work. Right, go
Yeah.
on then, mate.
Okay.
Where
Right.
you go? Can you
I'll
do?
go. Yeah, I can do two. Well, I'm going to keep the Ravens and Browns fairly brief.
Yeah.
Partly because, as I said, I was feeling awful off the back of the weekend, but this is a fairly sort of succinct one to cover off anyway for me. So yeah, Ravens and Browns, keeping it brief. Browns, coming off sort of a week 13 bye. So again, part of the reason I'm keeping it brief, no fancy numbers to report from week 13. The Ravens come into the game off the back of, a tight divisional loss 2019. It could have been worse for them if the Bengals had managed to get a win, but they kind of got away with it a little bit. Top performers, the only one of note really in the DL, sort of Brandon Williams picked up 18 points, all sort of tackle numbers. Outside of that, not too much to get excited about from the Ravens, from an IDP perspective. Looking at sort of the Week 14 matchup, as you know, I have tried to be a bit more positive about the Ravens defense from an IDP perspective. I talked about them the other week, but they don't make it easy. Looking at last week's points, even the tackle count, looking at the stats is a bit. Patrick Queen tops the chart with 68. It's nothing too excitable. The Browns have been up and down. They're a yo-yo team on both sides of the ball this season, so it depends which version of sort of the Brownies roll up this week. For me, Myles Garrett, is going to be going out to look to add to his 14 sacks on the year, especially after falling behind to divisional rival Mr. Watt, and the other safe pair of hands, is linebacker Anthony Walker. He's the Browns tackle leader with 85 on the season. Looking back over the weeks, he's good for double figures in IDP pretty much any week he's fit to play. So, but that's kind of it really, which is why I've kept this one brief. And the game summary, I've got a sneaky feeling the Browns might nick this. They'll want to level things up because they went into the bye after that 16-10 defeat to the Ravens. They've got Chubb and Hunt back, although Hunt's questionable, but the word is he should be fit. And if they have to pass, this Ravens secondary is 50 shades of banged up at the moment. I don't think they've got a fit cornerback on the roster anywhere. So, I know that the coaches were concerned about that in interviews recently. So the secondary is really depleted, and also the Ravens offense. It's not broken the 20-point mark since week 9, which is again that would be a bit of a concern. So yeah, I'm going to take the Browns in this one.
Yeah,
So.
I'm with you on that. I think you're right, and it'd be interesting to see how the Browns play it because obviously, as a massive run-heavy team, and that is their game. You got to look at these corners. I mean, the fact that Marlon Humphrey's out now is like,
yeah,
this is it's going to be quite an interesting game to see if the Browns can properly do it. Right then.
Okay.
What you got? Cowboys?
Yeah, I can do Cowboys at Washington.
Right?
Yeah, it's fine with me, mate. So let's start with Washington. Had a Week 13 win over the Raiders, 17-15, and they've ground out wins by the exact same scoreline for the last 2 weeks. Some of that is, thanks in part to the defense. And the core of that defense has been for pretty much all season. At the heart of it, you've got the linebackers, Cole Holcomb, who we've mentioned frequently on the pod, and Jamin Davis. And they, the two of them top scored again for Washington on Sunday with 19.5 and 12.5 points respectively. You've then got them sort of backed up by a decent pair of tough tackling safeties in Cameron Curl and the returning Landon Collins. In between them have racked up 138 tackles and, a couple of picks on the season. So those four are fairly safe bets. And, they're all likely to be rostered, unfortunately. So as a bit of an outside pick this week, and if you are short at DB, and you can't pick up the couple of Saints DBs that I highlighted a few minutes ago, then consider having a little nibble on Kendall Fuller and the corner. This could be a decent matchup for him this week. For a kickoff, this is currently sort of a top 3 run defense. And Zeke actually admitted, I heard an interview the other day, despite the win over the Saints, that they need to be better. The Cowboys need to be better in the run game. Both him and Pollard need to produce a bit more. And with Lamb and Cooper back, Dak will, if the run game isn't quite far in, and this is a good Washington run defense, then he'll gladly air it out. So, it could be, you could find the likes of Kendall Fuller having a busy day. Plus, Fuller's put up double figures in IDP points, 8 games out of the 12 he's played. So he's a fairly decent scorer. As well as he's got decent tackle numbers, and he's got 11 passes defended on the season as well. So, I think you could do worse if you're short in DB. Moving over to the Cowboys. I'm not going to bang on about the linebackers, Micah Parsons and Keanu Neal. There's no real surprises there. You know what you're getting from them. In fact, the only slight surprise was Neal outscored Parsons last week, but he only had 23 snaps as opposed to Parsons 65. So he was busy when he was on the field. But the two, the top 2 sort of week 13 performances came from the DBs. Corner Anthony Brown, 23.5 points, including a forced fumble. And then there's the safety, Jaron Kearse, 30 points, including a pick. Had a very, very good game last Thursday. And both these guys do seem to be sort of readily available on the waivers. So
yeah, he was my shout last week, old Curse.
And, it was, yes.
He proved it right, and he's definitely his tackle numbers are banging. He's got to. I can't believe people are leaving him alone.
No, well, it was. I mean, looking at the matchup this week in a bit more detail, Kearse, Nathan's right. He's the one you've got to target. I mean, Washington are not blessed with an abundance of offensive talent. But Heineke does like going sort of over the middle to tight ends Logan Thomas and John Bates. They were the 2 he's targeted most, certainly in the last game. Although
Logan Thomas.
I was going to say I have qualified that by saying Logan Thomas looks a bit of an issue at the moment. So although bearing in mind I did my notes on sort of Monday when I was sort of between bouts of COVID. So at that point, they were just getting the results of the MRI, and they were saying it wasn't an ACL tear that they'd feared. But he's done. But it doesn't change the fact that Heineke he's a relatively conservative quarterback. He's not going to wear it out long. He's not a Herbert or a, he's not going to go slinging it downfield willy-nilly, basically because outside McLaurin, they don't have much else down there, really. So, but the point being, as I say, Washington are a conservative offense. It's a perfect fit for a busy tackling safety like Kearse. In fact, Nathan's right. The more you look at it, you do struggle to understand what this guy's doing on the waiver wires. I mean, he's picked up 70 points in IDP in the last 3 weeks. He's also Dallas's top tackler with 85 on the season. That's 13 more than Micah Parsons. But anyway, he's out there if you want him. So, but no one picked up Grugier after I recommended him last week. So we'll see if he's still there next week. So yeah, game summary. Cowboys win for me. Dak's got weapons back available to him. Plus on the defensive side of the ball, they've got the defensive rookie of the year. But I think Washington will make it difficult for him. They're still in the playoff hunt themselves. So, but I think Cowboys should have a bit too much on the offense for him. But the Washington D, I can see it keeping it fairly tight. I don't think the Cowboys run away with this one.
No, I agree. I've got the Cowboys to win it, but it won't be a game that I would put money on because, it could it's definitely a tough one for Dak and the Cowboys. But right, so I'm over to Niners at Bengals. Okay, so concentrate on the Niners first. Week 13, I absolutely loved that game against the Seahawks. I absolutely love it. It was great from a neutral perspective, and not bad IDP wise. Especially for the from the 49ers point of view, top of the tree was Azeez Al-Shahir, 32 points in IDP plus, 16 tackles and a tackle for a loss. I mean, it's with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw out. That's put him at those kind of numbers, but he's quite consistent anyway. And if either of those two, Warner or Greenlaw, are missing in week 14, Al-Shahir could be in for another decent week against the Bengals. DJ Jones well up front for the 49ers, and a guy that I constantly mention him. I really like Quan Williams in the secondary. He got an interception and a forced fumble in week 13, and I do like him in this game. So yeah, they're the three that I would be looking at. Al-Shahir especially is a definite pickup if he's around. Over to the Bengals. It was a tough, sad loss I felt for the Bengals. I don't know. It was a bit like they threw in the towel a little bit against the Chargers, and I don't know quite. I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was going to be a proper gunslinging affair, but it just Burrow took a bit of a whack on the old finger, I think it was, and yeah, that seemed to put it all a little bit off. But yeah, it was a poor show really, but I do fancy them to bounce back. Now, the big sort of news, I mentioned it earlier on, Logan Wilson is out at linebacker. So, straight away, somebody Bren's mentioned quite a bit, Jermaine Pratt. Now, this is where you should be looking at trying to pick up somebody. If you've got a gap to fill, Jermaine Pratt is definitely there. It's against the Niners, who will run the ball heavily. Can't remember how many touches he had, Elijah Mitchell, last week, but it's quite a lot. So expect, and again, if it's not that, if it's not running the ball, their next option is throwing it straight over the middle to your big man George Kittle. So again, middle of the field is where it's at against the Niners. So yeah, I expect Jermaine Pratt to rack up some points this week at linebacker. I'm not gonna waste your time telling you how good Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson are up front. If they're available, or if you've got them, you've got to play them. And yeah, you should be. They're still bringing pressure week in, week out. Von Bell at safety, he's also doing well. He's got to be started. But yeah, for me, the Bengals, I've got Bengals winning the game. But I think it'll be a good game. I'm quite interested in this one. There's a lot going on with the Niners. I thought at one stage they'd won that game against the Seahawks. Yeah, but wasn't to be.
Yeah, no, I've I'd copy and paste most of that. I mean, I like Nath, disappointed with the Bengals, but the Burrow injury, yeah, kind of saw the wheels come off a little bit after that. The Niners, I don't know. I was reading a write-up the other day about the Niners Seattle game, and it's, they just look like a couple of, in the hunt just about for wildcard teams, and they've kind of been that way all season. Whereas the Bengals are still very much in the mix. Niners are as well, to be fair. But
it's so weird with them though, isn't it? It's like I think Ayuk never got targeted until pretty much the end of the third quarter, and that was with Debo out. So I don't know. They were targeting the other wide receiver Sheffield quite a bit. He got a few catches, but yeah, I just feel that it's a weird one with the 49ers. I'd love to see them all fitting on the field, because I think they're with Elijah Mitchell, Kittle, Debo Samuel, Ayuk, and maybe next year, maybe Trey Lance. I think it does sound fun to watch on paper, but at the moment, not great.
Bengals win, but yeah, Niners, yeah, you don't know what you're going to get. So a bit like a few teams this season, right? I've got a couple of games I am going to touch on quickly before my last big one, which would be the Monday night game. So just a couple of briefly. Again, I've kept a few of these brief, partly because of one of the matchups, partly because of plague issues. So Lions at the Broncos. Lions won at last. Sorry, mate. But yeah, top performers are the Lions' top performers are all on waivers. This may come as a huge shock to everyone, I know. So yeah, top of the tree for the Lions on Sunday was linebacker Charles Harris. Not someone we've mentioned a lot this season, strangely. But he had a good game, 24 points, 2 sacks, forced fumble. Corner Jerry Jacobs had a decent game, 19.5 points. And the linebacker, Julian Okwara, who I do quite like, actually. 15.5 points, including a sack. And safety Tracy Walker had a decent game with 15 points. Should you be rushing out to pick up these players? No, probably not. Although if I had, and I do stress, if I had to make a case for any of them, it would probably be Charles Harris, to be fair. He has 6 sacks on the season, and Teddy Bridgewater has been stuffed 28 times this season. But there are definitely more consistent linebackers in better teams that you can go and get. So I probably would. Broncos lost to the Chiefs. Leaves them bottom of the AFC West, but it's still in the hunt. Top performers at DL, Tremont Jones, 16.5 points, including a sack. Baron Browning and Kenny Young at linebackers got 11.5 points apiece. All three of them are on waivers, but not for me. This is still a top 10 Broncos defense, looking at the stats. But they're a bit of an IDP anomaly for me, a little bit like the Bucks. Hard to predict sort of fantasy value week to week. For me, consistently, it's the DBs, with the safeties of Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, they're Denver's top tacklers. So, and then obviously you've got the rookie corner, Pat Surtain, who's starting to show his worth. He had another pick on the weekend. So, but it is very much the value in the secondary for me with Denver. Game summary. I think Denver win. I think Nathan's already touched on it. The Vikings made life just too easy for Goff to throw the ball. He was able to throw it between the numbers. That the coverage. I know the teams were tired, but that the coverage has got to be better for that game-winning TD. He was just so open. I don't think Denver, and their secondary are going to make that sort of mistake. They've got good safeties in there. So Denver win for me because I still think Detroit are just bad, basically.
Yeah.
So you're not going to fight me on that one, I don't think. Denver win. No. Okay. Denver. So very quickly, Bills and the Bucks. So the Bills' top performers in Week 13, Matt Milano, someone we mentioned a lot, 16 points, and DL sort of Harrison Phillips, 13.5. It's not that game against the Pats was not a game where you're going to really sort of handle it. The conditions were beyond awful, and in a game like that, it's just made for the Pats. They love, a shitty, wet, windy, just ugly football game. Basically, that's just Belichick's team. He would have been loving it. Just grind it out and move on. So I wouldn't read too much into the Bills D off the back of Monday's game. The Bucks, for me, it's the 3 top tacklers. For the Bills. So Bills this week, you'd be looking at sort of Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Jordan Poyer, all the usual suspects. Again, it seems to be with a lot of teams where we mentioned sort of 3 players at a time, and it is that sort of 2 linebacker and that 1 sort of tackling safety core. That's that's what a lot of teams are sort of reliant on at the moment. Bucks top performers, bit of a blast from the past. Some of the old boys came to play, and it was the DLs, former. Yeah, one of my favourite former Dolphins and Dominican Sue racked up 25 points, a couple of sacks. Vita Vea just behind him on 24, 2 sacks. I mean, they just bulldozed their way through.
Straight in the
They
middle.
were just really good fun. No dicking around, just bang straight through the O-line. It was quite good fun to watch, actually. Don't expect a repeat of those sort of numbers this week against the Bills, though. But again, typical Bucks. I've just put see usual IDP complaints about the Bucks. So again, a lot of the points are sort of shared around, so they are a bit tough to predict. The safe bets on the Bucks, as always, in a matchup like this against the Bills, which will be a tough one. The linebackers, Devin White, 100 tackles on the season. Levante David, not too far behind him. On about 80 tackles, 77 tackles, but just off the 10 games, to be fair. So, and then you got sack leader, sort of Shaq Barrett. So they're really the three for me in a matchup like this. I'm not, and I've learned the hard way. Don't go left field with the Bucks. Game summary, the Bills need to get the run game firing for me in this one. Falcons and sort of Cordell Patterson showed a few signs of this Bucks sort of run defense creaking a little bit. It's been pretty solid all season. But I don't know, for the Bucks, Brady enjoyed himself on Sunday. Buffalo are still a top-ranked passing defense. So for me, I just feel the Bucks have a few more things firing on offense at the moment, and they'll be keen to. I think the Bucks just want to get into that 10-win mark, and then they can sort of kind of put their feet up until sort of playoff time, really. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. I still think the Bills have got a few issues potentially, but
it's a funny one for me. I mean, I listened to quite a lot of stuff already on this matchup because a lot of people are talking about it, and it's a lot of talk about a shootout, and I'm not so sure whether it will be. I mean, Leonard Fournette is playing really well at the moment, and you just got to remember the Bills just gave in to Jonathan Taylor. They really gave in to him. Now, I don't know. I just got a feeling that the Bucks might just run all over them. But the Bills will have to throw. That I think they'll have to throw. So I don't know. It could be a shootout from that way, but I'm not sure whether it'll be a great week for Brady. It might be more of the grind game from their side. I would against the Bills. They can't stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, as I said in the notes there, I mean, Brady he
Patriots won it.
Yeah,
what was it? 3 throws from Mac Jones, wasn't it? 3,
something like that. Yeah, it was like, well, yeah, but if they just didn't have to, really.
No.
I mean, again, as I said, it was just a shitty wet game, and they just kept it on the deck and did what they had to do, grind it out and move on. Matt can throw it. He's the best rookie QB of the season I think for everyone's money, but why risk it in those sort of conditions?
But again, I think for Tampa's point of view, they might as well. I mean, I don't know. I just think they'll run. I think it'd just be run. But well, we'll see. Well, if it doesn't go to plan after that first quarter,
the Bills' D is definitely better, and the stats will bear this out. They're definitely better against the pass than they are against the run. So that's a given. So as you say, Lenny Fournette is, and he's given him a good option in the pass. Short over the middle passes as well. So he's coming good towards the end of the season. So I am leaning towards the Bucks though. I still think the Bills. Yeah, lacking a bit of confidence. I'm not sure what it is really, but you can't, as I said, you can't read too much into that Monday night game. It was just the condition played a massive part in it. Everyone was looking forward to it, and I think everyone's bonfire was quite literally pissed on Monday night because it wasn't the game we'd hoped for, really. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
But, what can you do?
Yeah. As soon as Carl Duggar had COVID, I thought that's it for me. I'm
not watching any more football. I'm going to bed. I'm have a slog.
So I got the Bears at the Packers NFC divisional matchup. The Bears. Oh God, the Bears still stink. They're terrible for me. If it's not, it's pretty much Roquan Smith or nothing for me. He was playing Well, I don't think he really should have been playing last week. I don't know, but and he's still top scored. It wasn't pretty performance against the Cardinals, and this is another massively tough test for them. They're going to struggle like mad, I would think. Robert Quinn, I just mentioned him. He got himself another sack. So if you're really struggling, he is worth an outside punt. However, the matchup is just terrible. Jalen Johnson is the only possible add at DB I've got, but that's it. There's nothing much to talk about. Roquan or nothing really. Yeah. Packers coming off their bye week. Packers should be well rested, and they should be absolutely flying high after their Week 12 win against the Rams. Russell Douglas is somebody that he had an absolute monster game against the Rams in Week 12, and I think that I am hearing though Jair Alexander is back, or he's definitely training. So I mean that's a game changer for. Darnell Mooney might be tracked all over the place if he's playing, and that is the main target. Yeah, where else am I going apart from Russell Douglas? I'm going there. I'm going just at DB, but up front and one, yeah, of course up front. Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, they're got good options up front against this matchup. Against Andy Dalton, or is it Justin Fields? It sounds like it might be Justin Fields again now. So, but it's difficult to predict when you haven't got a bloody clue who's going to be starting at quarterback or, yeah. So anyway, but Eric Stokes and Adrian Amos are also both in play this week for me. But yeah, you could even have a stack on it. You could have a stack on it. Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, good starts potentially, but you need to watch that Jair Alexander news to see if he's back before picking up any of those corners. Yeah, Packers destroy them for me in this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think you've got to be looking at Fields. I mean, Dalton was, he just got absolutely terrorized on the weekend. But at least I think Fields gives you a little bit more mobility, something on the ground, something a little more elusive than Dalton. But yeah, it's a similar one to, like I touched on with the Texans. It's very hard to, make any definitive picks from an IDP perspective when you're not entirely sure what they're going to do with the offense, especially when you're talking about the QB. So, but yeah, Packers should be pretty comfortable in this one. Carry on the good season. Okay, let's wrap this up with Monday night and another big divisional sort of Monday night game. So we've got the Rams at the Cards. Cards at 10-2, Rams at 8-4, both won on Sunday. Looking at the Rams top performers, we had the linebacker Ernest Jones picking up 18 points. Aaron Donald's 15.5 points, including a sack, and for me one of the best forced fumbles of the season when he just ripped that ball, from Robinson. He's just an animal. I mean, he was hanging on to that thing for dear life with both hands, and he just went in one-handed. I'll have that. Thank you very much. Jordan Fuller, one of his quieter games, went over 10 points, but he still leads the Rams with 90 tackles on the season by quite some distance from fellow safety Taylor Rapp. So Jordan Fuller is still a solid pick just on his tackle numbers. So yeah, Donald and Fuller, they're safe bets as always. Top scorer Ernest Jones at linebacker, not for me. It's only the second time he's hit double figures this season. So, and I don't think you're going to get excited about a one-off 18-point score really. I think twice about possibly, I know Jalen Ramsey sort of, on an awful lot of rosters, but I might think sort of twice about him this week. To be fair, Kyler doesn't throw too many picks, although Ramsey's, his tackle numbers are sort of decent enough, but I'm not sure it's a great matchup for him this week. The Cards, I'm not overly keen on the Cards, on the Rams sort of defense in this matchup, outside of the two sort of fairly solid picks. I do like the Cards D going into this, especially off the back of Sunday's performance. So, I mean, Jordan Hicks just had a monster game, 37.5 points, a couple of sacks. Byron Murphy picked up 23.5 points, including one of the 4 Cards picks against the Bears. Another one of the DBs, Jalen Thompson, went over 20 points, including another one of those picks. And he's another safety with good tackle numbers. Thompson, Chandler Jones hit 17 points, Peter Baker had 16, and another one of those picks. So there were some really, really good performance. It was just an good all-round performance. I know the Rams put an end to that sort of 3-game losing streak, but yeah, all right, it was against the Jags, to be fair. And yes, they have got Darrell Henderson back. So, that'll help a bit. But the Rams offense, I've still been, it was having a real wobble prior to that, the win against the Jags. And as I say, one win over the Jags isn't quite enough to convince me that Stafford and co have completely got their shit back together. Jordan Hicks and Isaiah Simmons at linebackers, I would say, probably both in play this week. Simmons had a quiet-ish weekend, along with sort of the DB, Jalen Thompson. This Arizona defense, they're pretty average against the run, but so the Rams, will be looking to exploit that through sort of Henderson. But so I think those 3 players, Hicks, Simmons, Thompson. I think the 3 of them sort of should be busy. Was not just trying to contain Henderson, but I think they'll try and get in there and sort of rattle Stafford, like they did against Dalton at the weekend. If, however, Arizona can, if they can stifle the run or get out to an early lead, I think the latter is probably more likely to happen. Then you might want to look at the likes of Byron Murphy. It is a little bit of a gamble, but he's about the only one of those Cards players who scored well at the weekend that I have found on waivers. He is a little bit of a boom or bust player. But like I said, I'm still, if they can force the Rams to throw, I am still a bit sketchy about this Rams passing game. I don't think it's, I think there are still some issues there. So he's about the only one outside of sort of the usual suspects that I think you may want to consider for this matchup. Looking at the game as a whole, I think the Cards for me. They look like they were really up for it on Sunday. Okay, I know it's against a Bears team that aren't very good, but they've got Kyler back running around looking fit. That ankle looks good. They've got D-Hop back as well.
I think Chase is back this week as well. Chase Edmonds,
yes,
maybe.
Yeah, so they've got all the weapons back, and to be fair, they win on Monday night, and it kind of it all but wraps up the NFC West sort of divisional title. So there's an added incentive there, and the defense is firing. The Rams haven't become a bad team overnight, but as I said, it's just prior to the bye they were having they had that 3-week loss wobble, and as I say, one win over the Jets doesn't convince me that they can win this game. So Arizona for me.
Yeah, same here. I've got them. I've got the Cards. I think I get you. It's going to be a tough game because of the kind of what's at stake scenario with it. But the Rams are still sort of finding themselves as with the injury and the change in, with Odell Beckham and players like that, they're not as settled. That I think the Cards with those injuries coming back, they're going to be. This is just the right time for them as well. Right, that's it. We're done. We're done for this one. So good luck. Good luck in getting into the playoffs, guys. Pick up those players that we mentioned. There's players there. There's some with these injuries happening, especially at linebacker. These are the floor tackle numbers. You got to look at those and get your bids in early doors. Right, that's us for this week. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week, and remember, keep rushing.